We're ready to go. Perfect. So thank you everybody for being here today. Thank you for those of you that are joining us online. We had over 100 people register for this session, which is great. And I know that we've got pools of people in different areas, such as different school districts that are tuning in today as well. So as we go today, I just encourage you to use the chat online. If you have questions here as well, you can go ahead and indicate that as Officer Gomez goes through. He'll put that call out for questions, and then also there'll be time for question and answers at the end. Just a couple of notes. This session is being sponsored and supported by Taylor County Human Services. So thank you, Taylor County Human Services, for bringing Officer Gomez here today. Phenomenal trainer, phenomenal speaker. We're really excited to have him. Before we get started in today's session, though, I want to point out two different events that are coming up. We do have our Care for the Wounded Helpers session. This is a virtual only session. This session will be available online, two different offerings. This will go out in a follow-up link to the event today, as well as anyone that registered for today will get the link for the recording. So if you haven't registered for today, see myself or Leslie after, and we'll make sure that you get added to that registration list if you're not already on it. And then the second piece is that we do have our annual Walk Together for Suicide and Mental Health Awareness Walk. This event is going to be taking place on Friday, September 13th. We're going to go start at 4:30. We're actually going to have a short program with the support of WAOW. Brad Hansen's going to be there. As many of you may have seen, Nina Polke 2 years ago yesterday died by suicide. So we invited them to be part of our event as part of our program. And we're going to have a lot of great other activities to help remember and support our survivors and those impacted. And including, the flyer has been updated, an alternate activity. If you're not into the walking, we're going to be doing a getting connected with nature activity as well. And it's going to end with a free QPR training for those of you that haven't been trained. My last piece is that if you like what you hear, please tell your friends. We got another session coming up from 5 to 7 tonight. People can tune in again virtually, or they can attend in person. We will have pizza and refreshments and so on at that event as well. So please let people know that. And if you're interested, I'd love to talk to you about Reserve Corps, but there's some great flyers over here you can learn there. And if you'd like to walk away with your certificate in hand, Human Services, you do not need to do this. This will be done for you. That's why it's important you sign in. I think that's all I have.
I got
Officer David Gomez, he's on it.
All right, got it. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. This is awesome. I come to you today from Idaho, right outside of Boise. I always like to start with the latest and greatest in drug and alcohol news for everybody, in case you haven't heard. A couple months ago, I assisted on a DUI traffic stop, alcohol. As we're talking to the guy, he informs us he's been drinking brake fluid for his alcohol. And we don't have much internet where we're at. So we start looking around. It's like, what is in brake fluid that's going to get somebody drunk? And so we just end up asking him, it's like, hey, why are you doing this? He goes, well, when I can't afford alcohol, I just drink brake fluid. I'm like, have you been doing it for a while? He goes, a little bit. I'm like, are you addicted? He goes, no, I can stop anytime I want. Started off light. It's a heavy topic. So we got to start off with a little bit of. Okay, so about me. I've been a police officer for about 15 years now. I worked for the Meridian Police Department for 10 years, and that was in a city of 100,000 people. Then for the last 5 years, I've been working up in Idaho City for a giant county, and there's only 13 of us. There's 13 of us now. And I also work for the city of Idaho City. Depending on what time of day it is, they call me and they tell me put on a different shirt, and I actually have 2 different cars in my driveway. So depending on where I'm going and what time of day it is, I'm Officer Gomez or Deputy Gomez. And look, they have Velcro tags from police to sheriff. So I have been a school resource officer for 12-ish years. I started off at a middle school, Lewis and Clark, 1,200 students from 6th through 8th grade. Then I went to a giant school, 2,300 students. And it was just myself and 2 school security guards, which were very helpful at the time. And then now for the last 5 years, I've been in Idaho City, where it's just 300 kids, K through 12. So I know they're brothers, their sisters, their moms, their dads, their dogs. I know where all of them live. I know everything about them now. So it's big changes, but I see the same things everywhere I go. And I do trainings all around the United States. And I always talk to principals, I talk to parents, I talk to kids, and it seems the same. We have the same problems even worldwide because social media brings everybody together. So I want to tell you how I got into this. When I went to Lewis and Clark to be the school resource officer, I had spent 3 years on patrol. Then they said, hey, would you go be a school resource officer? And I said, okay, I'll go be a resource officer, although I'm not sure what that means. Do I get, watered down pepper spray, baby handcuffs? What do I need here? And so I went to the school not really knowing what was happening. And they said, hey, look, keep the kids safe and build relationships. And so that's what I started doing. As I started building relationships, though, what I learned very quickly is that everything was happening online. Right before I got to the school, it was all online. On the weekend, you had bullying, you had sexting, you had drugs, you had fights. Everything was being done before school and during school online. Now, prior to my job in law enforcement, I was actually an engineer. I have a bachelor's degree in electronics engineering technology. I worked for Micron for 12 years before I became a police officer. So my computer skills were awesome. My social media skills, not so much. I think I had an outdated MySpace page, which I never used anyways. So for all intents and purposes, I had super computer skills and zero social media skills. Well, any adult who wants to get educated to the level of a sixth grader, it's a near impossibility. There's no training you can get. There's nothing you can really do to catch up with them. Well, I needed to figure out how to get educated so that I knew what was happening in their world. So I knew what their acronyms were. I knew who was bringing in drugs in. I knew who was going to fight. So I decided to try something. I came up with genius idea number one. I made a Facebook account of a student at my own school. So I picked an East Coast middle school. I picked a person with a motorcycle helmet on that looked like a middle schooler. I made a Facebook page. I hate school. I hate homework. I hate everything. And I was a legit teenager just like that. I friended about 10 of the most popular kids at my school. And they all accepted me within a couple of hours. Not one of them asked me who I was. Just friend. They all accepted me. Once I friended the 10 popular students, I never had to friend another kid again. Because once I had friends in common with kids at my school, of course, they started adding me. And all I did was reshare what the kids did, reshare, and spell cool with a K. And people just started adding me. To the tune of about 3 months later, I had about 500 kids at my own school of 1,200 kids that had added me on Facebook. I had added the initial 10. I never added any more after that. And I only accepted kids at my school. And I never talked to them personally. If they ever sent me a private message or anything like that, I just ignored them. They didn't care. They were just after people to be their friends and get shares because that's what they're all about. Well, once I had the 500 kids, I was able to see who was dating who. I could see who was being the bully. I could see who was bringing drugs into school. I could see what all the acronyms were. I knew who was suicidal. I could actually stop fights before they happened because I could see the drama spinning up in the morning and see who was going to fight. I became the very best person in all of the Treasure Valley, which is, Boise, it's like, 2 million people there in Boise area. I became the very best person at finding runaways because I had this giant social media connection that I could use. I'm an engineer by, previous educated engineer, so I do lots of math. But what started happening is as my department would arrest violent sex predators, I would type their name into my Facebook page and I was coming up with friends in common. And not just 1 or 2 friends in common, I was coming up with 30, 40, 50 friends in common, which means that these predators were already friends with my kids at my own school, which was kind of a scary thing. It's like, hey, why is this happening? And so I started talking to kids like, hey, we arrested this guy. It looks like he's on your friends list. Do you know him? No, I just add people. So it's like, okay, I need to start an education program because there was none. And there's still not very many. I mean, you ask how many education programs there are for schools, and there's not very many at all. So I started teaching kids social media stuff, and I downloaded some cookie cutter ones that were out there, and the kids were like, yeah, we don't talk like that. That's not how we do. That's super dated information, and they were having none of me. So I had to change my tactics. So then I started going into classrooms, and I would tell the kids, 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, whatever class I was in, raise your hand if you have social media. And as they'd go to raise their hand, I'd say, put your hands down. I already know who has social media because I'm your friend with my fake account. And of course, the kids were like, oh, Gomez, I feel like you're creeping on me. I am going to delete you. And I'd say, hey, take your phones out, delete me now. And they would take out their phones and they would look at me and they would look at their phones and they would say, hey, Gomez, which one of my 800 friends are you? Which one of my 4,000 friends are you? Right? I had middle school kids who had more than 5,000 Facebook friends. So for those of you, most of you probably don't have 5,000 Facebook friends. You can only have 5,000. So I had multiple kids that had mirror accounts. So they would put everything double on Facebook because you can only go to 5,000 and they had 8,000. Now, the kids weren't super impressed about the predators having them as friends, but they didn't want Gomez as their friend. So there's hunting groups that started, hey, we're going to Starbucks later today. We're going to find Gomez. And so the next morning, it never failed that one kid would come into my office and, Gomez, last night, somebody said my account was your account and now I have no friends. But the kids started getting an education. They started hunting me. They started looking at me. They started seeing, hey, maybe we don't want to accept everybody. Now, some of the kids would delete their accounts completely in order to get rid of me and then only add people that they knew, which is a win for me. Some of the kids would say, hey, I don't care what I don't put anything on that's crazy, so I don't care if you're on there. And some of the kids would try and whittle it down one by one. No kid ever found my account. They did later, and Snapchat kind of outed me a little bit later, but on Facebook, no kid ever found my account. But we did get the education out. Now, about a year later, I decided to test my kids. I made a second account. I made an account of a 13-year-old girl. I made it super clean and painfully obvious she was 13. It was her birthday like every 3 weeks. Yay, I'm 13. I can have a real Facebook account. So I started adding kids. And this time what happened as I started adding kids at my own school, I actually got banned by Facebook from adding people because they said, hey, you're adding people you don't know. So not only were my kids not accepting me, but Facebook was asking them, hey, do you know this person that's trying to add you? And they would say no. So Facebook banned me for 7 days, then 14 days, and 21 days, and they were going to get rid of my account, which has happened plenty of times, right? I'm like a Facebook jail expert. So this new account probably took me a couple months just to get about 50 or 60 friends, so not everybody was listening, but a lot of the kids were, and it was a big difference. But once I had 50 or 60 people on there, I got bored and I decided to do the next step of my genius plan. I started accepting friends of friends. So if you were friends with my kids at Lewis and Clark, I would accept you no matter who you were. Well, I started getting 20, 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old men started friending my fake 13-year-old girl account. Now, she's not anybody's church. She's not anybody's soccer team. She's not related to anybody. Yet here were these random men that were friending my 13-year-old girl account. Now, I will say a large percentage of those men that were friending my fake 13-year-old girl were what we call a ghost account. They would friend me and they wouldn't ever say or do anything. They just watch. They don't like, they don't share, nothing. A ghost, I'm fine with that. However, probably week number 2, I got friended by a 26-year-old man. And he says, hey, I said, hey back, and you got to do hey a couple times just to be a legitimate teenager. He says, hey, I'm a 26-year-old Marine sergeant. I'm stationed in Afghanistan. This was 2013. I'm stationed in Afghanistan. I'm a sniper on rooftops. And he says, it's super boring. It's not like on TV. And he says, I use my satellite phone to talk to people on Facebook, and you look like a fun person to talk to. So I said, okay, let's talk. Let's see what you're about. So we talked for about 15 minutes about nothing in particular. Then, with no warm-up or anything, he says, hey, send me nudes. Right? I'm like, no, I'm 13. I'm not going to send you nudes. Of course, everybody in my department's like, do it. No, I'm pretty sure that would be disturbing the peace. So I told him, nope, I'm 13. I'm not going to send you nudes. I'm not about that. And we ended the conversation for the day. The next day, I thought, okay, we're done. Since I'm not sending him nudes, we're going to be done. But he was in my private message box first thing in the morning. He says, hey, do you really live in Meridian, Idaho? And I said, yes, I'm 13. I go to Lewis and Clark. I live in this area of Meridian. And he said, look, next week I come back for a week of leave or 2 weeks of leave, whatever. And he says, I'm coming back to my parents' house and it happens to be right by where you're at. He says, because you've been such a great friend here, we've known each other 12 hours. because you've been such a great friend, I want to take you out on a nice dinner date to say thank you. And he sent me a picture of the nice menu for a Boise restaurant, the nice dinner jacket he was going to wear, the nice car he was going to pick me up in. And so I called my boss. I'm like, look, this is what I got going on. And I had nothing in my calendar for the day he wanted to take me. So I said, hey, I'd love to go on a date with you. So we agreed to meet a week from that day at the local park that was right by the school. And we picked a time after dark where there's supposed to be nobody in the park. In that week, he did what we call the grooming process. So it starts off super small. Hey, when we meet, can I give you a hug? When we meet, can I give you a kiss? When we meet, can you wear this? Can you do that? By the end of the week, things got very graphically sexual on what this 26-year-old man wanted to do with a 13-year-old. And I'd probably told him 52 times I was 13, because some of the things he wanted to do was like, hey, I'm 13, I've never done that, but sounds cool, again, with a K. Date night came and all the bets were in. It's like, okay, you know, fantasy is one thing, but meeting up is a whole nother thing. So I think we had about 4 undercover guys in the park and about 5 hidden patrol units. I was one of the hidden patrol units. The undercover guys told us, hey, he's here half an hour early. They had pictures of him. We all knew who he was. We'd done our homework very well. He was there half hour early. So, okay, I just came out of hiding with my patrol truck. I introduced myself. I'm Officer Gomez. You are under arrest for felony enticing children over the internet. And I put him in handcuffs and arrested him. As he's in the back of my car, I asked him a couple questions like, hey, where's your car? He's like, I don't have a car. Well, how'd you get here from your house? I don't have a house. Where's your phone? He's like, I don't have a phone. I'm like, wow, you're like a homeless guy. He goes, yeah, I've been homeless about 3 years now. I go, well, what about the military? And he was never in the military. I already knew that. He goes, no, that's just a story I used to meet women, is what he called it. I'm like, no, more like girls. Well, I did a search warrant on 2 of his Facebook accounts that I knew he had. When that search warrant came back with hundreds of thousands of pages, hundreds of middle school girls had sent him nudes. I was able to identify about 20 to 25 of them in my own school district that had sent him nude photos, all middle school girls. And what I saw is that he was going to the public library every day, getting on their Facebook account at the library and friending about 100 to 200 girls every day. And he was getting about a 90% acceptance rate. And the more girls that accepted him, the more girls he had in common with the next girl, the more would accept him again. And probably the first 10 volleys of conversation were exactly the same, just copy and paste. I'm a 26-year-old Marine Sergeant. I'm a 26-year-old Marine Sergeant. Now, I was able to identify about 4 or 5 girls that he'd actually been on dates with. A homeless guy with a good story. Okay, and so once that happened, we had to go track down real girls that had really been on dates, that had been, you know, in sexual relationships with them. And the amount of work was astronomical for just that one person. Well, so then my chief of police and the mayor, this was a super surprising thing for them. So they're like, hey, is this a one-off thing or is this happening a lot? So myself and one other SRO that summer, normally in the summertime, we just go back to patrol. So we remember how to arrest adults instead of kids. Or we help detectives, whatever. But that summer we got put on predator patrol. So him and I got set up in an office. We made a bunch of fake accounts of whatever social media was there. And we just parked 13-year-old boys and girls. We ended up arresting about 14 men that summer that came to our town thinking they were going to have sex with 13-year-olds. Now, every single one of them came to meet us. The next one that met us was a 50-year-old college coach. One of the guys that met us at Walmart, he had a wedding planned for the very next day. So his bachelor party was a 13-year-old girl, or so he thought. Right, that one, I called the fiance, hey, your boy's not coming to your wedding. And she thought it was a prank. Worse than that is she had a 13-year-old sister living with her the whole time. So these things, just crazy the amount of people that came. Now, if we had the resources, we could have arrested 10 guys every single day that came to our town, right? But the resources are super intensive, and it took me 5 or 6 years just to get through those 14, on top of getting new ones all the time. We kind of stopped that targeted thing because internet crimes against children was starting right then, so they kind of took over that part. But at the same time, I was taking over with my students. I would tell them, hey, look, if some creeper contacts you, block, delete, move on with your life first. If they go above and beyond that, let me know and I'll add them to my fakie account. We'll see what we got. And through arresting those guys, doing search warrants on their computers, that's all the information that I shared with you guys today. Through talking with kids who have been extorted at the school all the time. That's the information I'm going to share with you guys today and what kind of things those are. Now, I was in school yesterday, so I am currently an SRO, so I see the latest and greatest tricks. And I also, through my Facebook page that has like 270,000 followers, I get people from all over the world that send me messages. Hey, have you seen this? Have you seen this trick? Have you seen my daughter just fell for this? My son just did this. Or, my fifth grader got around my parental monitoring controls by doing this other thing. So I'm going to share a lot of those things. It's impossible for me to share everything, but we'll do a compressed version of that today. All right, here's your vocabulary quiz of the day. These are things that you might see on a kid's texting back and forth to friends. Now, I'm going to show you a lot of these. Just because a kid has that does not make them a druggie, does not make them a sex addict. Some kids just say things just to be cool. So I've had to calm down more than a crazy parent or two. Oh my gosh, my kid is a sex trafficker. No, they're just a kid. Let's take one clue at a time. And because police, we don't like tests, I'm going to give you the answers right now. There you go. So Happy is always my favorite one, right? So the kids, there's a bunch of names for them, but they go to the gas station and they go into the ashtray and they take out all the cigarettes that haven't been smoked all the way and they put them in their bra or their underwear for smoking later, right? Like cigarettes weren't gross enough already. Now you're taking ABC cigarettes. Here's some of the emojis that might be associated with drugs. And again, just because a kid uses one of these does not mean, especially like the cookie one. You can use a cookie one and be completely innocent. You can use some of these and still be innocent and just want to sound cool like your friends as well. So just one of the clues. All right, so nude photos is probably one of the bigger, there's probably the two biggest problems is nude photos of kids and vaping. And we'll talk about both of those in detail today. So for girls, the problem with nude photos these days is that as soon as you give a kid a cell phone, society in general is grooming them to be worth their body parts. Right? Everything they see on TV is sexualized. Everything they see on social media is sexualized. As soon as they get Roblox at 5 or 6, they're going to see little naked characters from other people walking around. They're going to see pornography names all over the place. And they are going to start to be groomed to be worth their body parts. Right? And unless you're very intentional about otherwise, that's what they're going to feel like they're worth. You give 5 or 6 years of the world grooming your kid to be worth their body parts. All you got to do is ask them for a naked picture and they will send it a lot of times. But now let's take the case where somebody might have put some values into their kids. What are the pressures? And so I always like to give this story. I had a 7th grade girl come into my office at the middle school, and she was very sad and crying because the boys would not ask her to our little boogie bash dance, right? The little chaperone dance that they have in middle school. The reason they wouldn't ask her is because she was all about church, right? She was about God, about her family, about community service, about everything. So the boys like, there's no fun there. We're not going to ask her. She was a cute little girl, never wore any holy clothing. I don't think she'd ever sworn in her life. But she wanted at 12 and 13, she wanted to have a relationship like the other girls. She wanted to be asked to the dance. She wanted to have those experiences, right? That's completely normal. And so she left my office still upset. There was not much I could say other than you got a lot of time in the world for this. About 6 months later, I taught a class to one of the schools, a different school than mine. And a 13 or 14-year-old girl came up afterwards and said, hey, Officer Gomez, I sent nudes out to a high school boy, and I think he's sharing them with everybody, and I'm really afraid of what's happening. So I went to that high school that day. It was actually in the next town over. Talked to that boy and found out he had about 18 middle schools girls naked on his phone. One of them was my church girl. So I went to her family. She had the most awesome family. I went to them. I said, hey, look, this is what I have going on. And so she brought out her phone and she had the entire conversation with him. So our school, the boys knew her reputation. No fun there. They don't even ask her. Now enter a boy from a different high school who doesn't know her reputation and tells her she's cute, tells her he would like to take her to the football game. They can share a popcorn. They can go to the movies. This is a first relationship for her. How much in love does she think she is? Even just via social media, right? She can't sleep. She's so excited. Those hormones are going nuts. And so I saw the conversation on the phone where he built up the relationship with her. And then he asked her for nude photos, and she said the right thing. She said, hey, look, I cannot send you nude photos. It's against my family. It's against my God. It's against my everything. Sorry, I can't send you nude photos. And he said the one sentence I see boys tell younger girls all the time that gets them nude photos. Hey, I'm sorry. I thought you were more mature than that. Look me up in a couple of years and I'd love to take you out on a date. So here comes her relationship that she couldn't sleep the whole couple of days before because she's so excited about, just came to a crashing stop because she's not sending nude photos. Instead of not sending them, she took 30 seconds to take off her shirt and her pants and underwear and took like 3 pictures and sent to him. Horrible, but also understandable, right? And how many parents are countering that? Almost none. Right? I mean, how many sex discussions do parents have with kids? Not very many. How many sex discussions do strangers have with kids? Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots. Right? The minute they have a phone, the minute they have Roblox, the minute they have Instagram, they are being sexualized. Now, unfortunately for that girl, her picture was shared everywhere. So I ended up arresting probably 2 boys or men per year because she followed me to the high school that tried to sextort her. Hey, this is your picture. Send me a new picture or else I'm going to share this one with everybody. Not in my town, right? Nobody's anonymous to me. I will find them. Now, when I hunt people down, I can hunt down almost anybody. The problem with that is if they're overseas, I don't have time or resources to go after them. And I always get parents on sextortion calls like, hey, look, they're in Africa. And the parent wants to, well, the plane leaves at noon, right? We'll meet you there. No. Not the way it works, right? A lot of these people are overseas and they do it as a criminal enterprise. And so I don't have the resources to go after that. If they're close by or they're a student or even they're in the same state, I'm going after them. If they're in a different state, I'll send my friends after them. But that's super limited. Where did the crime actually happen? Who has jurisdiction? And then who's going to go where? Am I going to fly to their courts or are they going to fly to my courts? So a lot of that stuff just gets pushed aside and the predators know this. Now, for boys, the lure is different for boys. For girls, the lure is maturity, right? Girls want to be mature and they use their own emotions against them. For boys, it's a little different lure, and the predators know this as well. So picture a 13-year-old boy on his phone, gets contacted by 15-year-old hottie girl on Discord, on Stitch, on Snapchat, on anything. How many 13, 14-year-old boys are going to say stranger danger to 15-year-old hottie girl? 0. It's, hey, how you doing? Hottie girl starts a relationship with him. After they've known each other forever, at least 15 minutes, she says, hey, I really like you. You're super special. I usually don't have luck on the internet. I'm going to send you a special picture and I want you to send me one back. And she sends a topless picture of herself to this boy. How many boys do you think are going to send a topless picture back? Almost every single one of them. Then she talks to him a little while longer. Then she sends a full nude photo. How many boys are going to send a full nude photo back? Most of them. Right? This is biology 101 that's taken over. And most parents, again, we don't have those discussions enough. Right? The education is just lacking. That's why I'm here doing everything I can. Because this is going to happen to almost every single teenage boy with social media. He's going to get hit on by the pretty girl scam. Now, other countries, they have farms of people. They download a picture of a 18-year-old pornography actress who looks like she's 15. And here she is fully clothed at the mall with her friends. Here she is at Thanksgiving. Here she is with her fake school friends. And they download the series of pictures of her and they pretend to be her to 14, 15-year-old boys. And they are hugely successful in getting naked pictures of her. The problem is as soon as that boy sends a naked picture, within 30, 40 minutes, they're going to be contacted by somebody who said, hey, we have your naked photo. We're either going to call the police. We're going to share this with all your friends. Or whatever it is, if you don't send us $500 in iTunes cards or $300 in iTunes cards. Now, we have kids around the United States that have taken their lives because they're so embarrassed about this. But other ones, how many 13-year-olds have $300 or $400 or $500? Not many. So the predator's telling them, hey, go take your mom or dad's credit card, purchase the iTunes cards, scratch off the number, tell us what they are. And then when your parents ask you to say you bought V-Bucks or say you bought Roblox or say you don't know what happened. The problem is if you make a payment, they're going to want one the next week and the next week and the next week, and there's no amount of money you can give them to stop. I've talked to parents whose kids have been paying for 2 or 3 years, whatever they can every month, right? And some of these are adult men who are still paying because they just can't get out from under it. And the more they go, the further they get into it, it's tougher. So that is probably the biggest scam going right now, is the naked picture scam for boys. I've had kids hit twice. I'm like, dude, we went through this last year. Oh man, I thought she was real. Right? And the parents too, they give them phones back right the next day, boys and girls, right? Hey, your daughter who's 13 just sent her naked picture out. The whole middle school has it. Oh, I need her to have a phone. No, you don't even need her to leave the room. Yes, sir.
Do you find if individuals don't pay, that routinely the predators do somehow release their pictures in a local way that the kids know they're out there and they're embarrassed, or is it more of an idle threat?
Okay, so the question is, do the predators actually send out the pictures when they threaten to send out the pictures? If they're dumb, they do. If they're smart, they don't. Because what happens is when they send out the pictures, they usually send it on Instagram, right? That is the biggest threat. I'm going to send your pictures out on Instagram. Well, Snapchat protects predators. Like, I can't get a warrant to get the Snapchat communication back and forth between predators and victims. Instagram does not protect them. So if they're dumb, they will send it out. And probably, I would say less than more will send out the pictures. So maybe 30 or 40% will send out. They'll send out maybe 5 pictures to 5 of your friends just to show that they are serious. But once they do that, now I'm tracking them. Now they've left a trail for me to hunt them. So they shouldn't, but some of them are dumb and they're new at this, and they do. The real pro guys will not go to Instagram for anything. They won't go to Discord. They'll only use Snapchat because Snapchat does protect them completely. Craziness. I know. Great question. Okay, so many kids are sending out naked photos that it is becoming a currency. And it's been a currency for a while now. So in 2014-15, I started seeing on Snapchat, well, it's probably 15 when Snapchat was really starting to get big, 16. People would sell drugs and they would say, hey, $150 for a zip of marijuana. A zip is 1 ounce, which is almost like a gallon freezer bag of marijuana, $150. With nudes, $100. With sexual favors, $80, right? So they started making it a currency. Well, now with OnlyFans, especially, you see all these adult women who are making lots of money and making it seem okay to the kids. So now kids, even middle school girls that get hooked on vaping, which lots of middle school girls get hooked on vaping, and they need their vaping fix or they need their marijuana fix, they know they can sell topless pictures trade it for vapes, sell it for marijuana. They can trade it for cell phones. When parents take away their cell phone, they can trade topless pictures for cell phones. Now, you don't even have to trade your own pictures. Let's say a boy wants a discount on anything, pills. He can say, hey, look, I need some pills. I don't have enough money for what you have. I have cheerleader number 2 topless at a drunk party. What's that worth for a discount? And they start trading it as a currency because that's what they see everybody else doing, right? The same thing happens with texting and driving. I tell kids at this school, it's bad to text and drive. As soon as they get on the road, what do they see? Every adult is texting and driving. So whose message is stronger? The world, right? Same things happens with the nude photos. They see all these adult women who are making lots of money, and it's on TikTok all day long, how much money people are making. So again, we're grooming kids to be worth their body parts. Now, I had a young lady come in and say, Gomez, I don't know if I'm picking the wrong boys, what's going on? I just keep on getting uncommitted boys. And so I asked this girl, well, tell me what you're worth. And she goes, well, I don't even know what that question means. I'm like, I have a dog at home that can tell me he needs to go outside and go pee. Can you do better than my dog? Well, I can put pictures on Instagram. Oh, there's plenty of pictures of my dog on Instagram. She had no idea what she was worth. So I started asking all the kids, Hey, what are you worth? What are your family values? Maybe 2 out of 100 kids can tell me what their family values are or what they're worth. Right? Because they're worth their body parts now. And so I told this young lady, hey, let's say you had to get married this Friday. Write down a list of the characteristics you would want in your husband to be. She wrote like 3 pages. So I said, okay, now go start putting stars next to everything that you have as a skill. Oh, I feel like you tricked me. No, I didn't trick you. We're just doing an exercise. The problem is we've gotten away from those kind of things, right? We've gotten away from skilled value. Right? And I always tell the kids, 2s don't marry 10s and 10s don't marry 2s. Where are we at? Right? If you're a 5 in high school, you want to be a 2, be rude, disrespectful, don't do your homework, drugs, alcohol, tobacco, you're going down to a 2. You want to be a 10, learn skills, languages, cooking, music, sports, travel, saving money, all these things will get you better. The problem is that most kids are just like this all day long. Yeah, so here's my Officer Gomez numbers. By 11th grade, about 80% of girls have sent out nudes. By 8th grade, it's about 50%. Now, on my Facebook page that has so many thousands of people, it's hard for adults to comprehend this. It's hard for me to comprehend when we get a call that says, hey, a 7-year-old girl sent out nudes on her mom's laptop or iPad. My mind can't comprehend it yet. I know it's going to be true because I see it over and over and over again. So for the average adult to comprehend this, it's crazy. Now I always get challenged on this. And so I ask on my Facebook page, hey, for those of you with teen girls or teen boys, ask them how many high school kids send out these pictures. And most of them come up with higher numbers than this. Or I'll be in a classroom of kids and I'll say, hey, look, Officer Gomez says 80% of girls by 11th grade have sent out nudes. Raise your hand if you disagree. There's nobody disagreeing other than, hey, that number's too low. That's the problem we're at. So is extortion the practice of extorting money or sexual favors from someone by threatening to reveal evidence of their sexual activity. This has happened lots and lots and lots, and it can happen right now, and it can happen 10 years from now, and it can happen 30 years from now. Okay, so I always tell the kids, hey, look, sending out nudes like getting a tattoo on your forehead. It's not going to go away. Right? It's going to change your life forever. And I have adult women who come into my office. Hey, Gomez, I was married for 20 years. Year number 10, we did a cruise to Hawaii. We took an intimate video of ourselves. We just got divorced a couple months ago, and now my ex-husband just sent that video to all my coworkers. Happens a lot. Or they call it's revenge porn is what it's called. They'll upload those videos or pictures to a website where everybody can see, except for the victim, because she's not looking around those pornography sites. And who's going to call the victim and say, hey, I was looking at porn last night and I saw your picture. So it's hard to know when that happens. Okay, so sex trafficking. A lot of people think sex trafficking is, you have a third world country person in a basement that you're sex trafficking. It's happening right here in everyday USA schools. And I know this because we take in at my house, all my kids are out of the house, so we take in high-risk kids. And when you take in high-risk kids, you have their friends over. We had a 15-year-old girl show up to my house. And we have lots of their friends, but she was a little different in that she was staying for dinner, but she asked if she could use our shower, which was kind of strange. Like, okay, yeah, of course you can use our shower, but now we need a story. And so she, after dinner, she told us she hadn't been home in 6 months. So I asked her, well, why haven't you been home? Are you a runaway? Because I'm a cop. You can't be a runaway in my house. And she says, no, my mom knows that I'm not coming home. And I called mom to talk to mom about it. And mom agreed she wasn't a runaway. And okay. So what happened is mom is in an abusive relationship, but mom doesn't want to work. Well, 10-year-old girl that was at our house doesn't care, doesn't know what to do. 15-year-old girl that was at our house butts head with the boyfriend because he's abusive with mom and she doesn't like that. So then she goes and stays at friends' houses. Well, pretty soon that's longer and longer and longer, and she hadn't been home in 6 months. And so we have very candid conversations with her. It's like, okay, so who are you staying with? And so she says low-level drug dealers will house her for about 2 weeks. She has to have sex with them once or twice a week. She gets all the drugs she wants. She gets the clothing she wants. She doesn't have to go to school. She doesn't have to do much else of anything. So now she's at Gomez's house and we say, hey, we have an extra room. You're welcome to stay there. But there's rules in our house. Well, now here's a kid who hasn't had rules her entire life. And now, even though we have simple rules and we try and work with them as much as we can, it's easier for them to have sex once or twice a week and not have to follow any rules. And they just move around from house to house to house to house. And social media makes it super easy. All a girl has to do is put a sexy picture up that says, hey, I need a place to crash for the night. Guess what? They're going to have a ton of offers. A ton of them. And so this girl, we actually told her, hey, look, she stayed at our house for like 3 days. And then she said, I'm going to a party with my friends who have saved my life. I'm sorry, I can't stay. I can't follow your rules. And so we made her an offer. We said, look, you come shower at our house anytime you want. You come eat anytime you want. You come stay the night anytime you want. You know the rules. And so she would probably come back once or twice a year to shower and to stay for a couple of days. And then she'd be gone. And we still know her. But there's a lot of kids like this, right? A lot in particular are girls who don't get along with their families. It's super easy for them to get on social media and start being sex trafficked, right? It starts like this. And then when they turn 18, they get offered $6,000 to go to California or Florida and make a pornography film. And as soon as they do that, their second pornography film is going to be paid in drugs. Well, by the time they get them hooked on drugs, pretty soon these girls are making $6,000 videos for $100 worth of heroin or meth. And then what happens when the drug dealers get tired of these girls? They overdose them and they drop them off at a gas station. And I've probably talked to 5 of those girls myself, where I go and there's a 17, 18-year-old overdosed, kicked to the curb at the gas station because the dealers are done with them, tired of them for whatever reason. Right? This is happening in every town. And it all starts with social media. Right? At 4, 5, and 6, they're already being groomed to be worth their body parts. And so you multiply that out by 10 or 15 years, and we have a big problem. A big problem. See, is there anything else? Yeah, so it's hard to get people out of sex trafficking. We made the offer to several girls now. Hey, come to our house. Here's all the things we offer. Clean bed, all the clothes you need, education, everything is offered. But it's hard for them because they've never had that. So you kind of need a STEP program or a super duper program. We have an Idaho Youth Challenge Academy for people that are 16 to 18, which is awesome. It's a 6-month boot camp. And they do fantastic. And I know other states have the similar program run by the Navy. Doesn't cost families anything. That's one of the best programs I've seen. As long as the kid's coming out, don't go back to the home that broke them. Right? So you come out of there, I say, hey, go to Job Corps, go to somewhere else. Don't go back to the home that broke you. All right, let's talk a little bit about specific social media stuff.
Question. So you talked a lot about girls getting into the sex trafficking. Is it similar for boys or is it different for boys?
So it's different for boys in that boys have an easier time finding somewhere to live permanently. Boys get in for a different reason because they're sextorted is what happens to the boys, right? So somebody gets a naked picture or video of them, and now they get sextorted to do things, go on dates, do this, even though they don't want to. It's not the same for boys at that age. Later on, you get a little bit more, but for girls, it's a lot different. Okay, so Snapchat is the most popular program that every single kid wants. Now, you're supposed to be 13 to have Snapchat. It was made to hide things from parents, and it's still made to hide things from parents. And I still get parents to contact me. Well, I let my 10-year-old have Snapchat because I'm her friend and I can see everything she does. No, you can't. Right? So you can be added on Snapchat as a parent, and then they can mute you so you can't even see what they're doing unless they choose to let you see what they're doing. Snapchat has its own picture vault that's pin coded. And Snapchat is not going to give you that pin code no matter how much parent you think you are. Limited search warrant information. So when I fill out search warrants for Snapchat, they will not give me peer-to-peer conversations. They'll give me group conversations, they'll give me IP addresses, they'll give me geolocations, they'll give me everything I need except for the peer-to-peer conversation, which means that I have zero evidence from Snapchat. So unless the victim got their own evidence, I have zero evidence. Now I can try a warrant and see if I can get to the evidence on the suspect's computer, but again, where is that? I don't know. But Snapchat is awful about that in that they don't give me anything that I can use. So at my school, I teach the kids, hey, take a screenshot with a second phone so that they don't know your screenshot and give me some evidence. The problem is they usually tell the people they've called the police before they start getting their evidence, and now I have zero evidence because it's all disappeared off the girl's phone. Recommended by most predators, right? I always joke with parents, hey, look, 5 out of 5 sex predators recommend parents give their kids Snapchat. And most parents agree. Why do they agree? Because parents are peer pressure just like everybody else. You don't want your 5th grader to be the only one in 5th grade without Snapchat. And I always joke with parents, like, hey, they'll call me, Gomez, is it true that my 5th grader is the only one without Snapchat? I'm like, no, they have Snapchat, you just don't know. Okay, many 5th graders already have Snapchat because everybody has Snapchat. And many parents don't want their kid to be the only one without Snapchat. Right, and I'd say by 8th grade, it's very rare to find a kid without Snapchat. Even if you don't think they have Snapchat, they have a burner phone at school that they have Snapchat on, or they log into their friend's phone and they get Snapchat, or they trade naked pictures for a phone and they have Snapchat, or they log in on their school Chromebooks and they have Snapchat. Right? Most people think that the Chromebooks that the school issues cannot get on Snapchat. That is wrong. They can get on Snapchat. They can get on TikTok. They can get on everything. But they have software. Yes, they do have software. But the kids have a 24-hour support line that tells them how to get around every monitor we have at the school. We have Go Guardian at our school, and we're just playing whack-a-mole every day for the back doors that the kids find. Right? They can VPN past the Go Guardian. They can use a flash drive. One kid was selling $10 flash drives to get every kid past the Go Guardian. They have a million ways to get past it, and all we can do at the school is whack-a-mole, shut this down, shut this down, shut this down. Live mapping. Snapchat has what's called the snap map. Tells you where you are within about 10 feet. And most kids are going to tell their mom, it's like, well, I turned that off. Yes, they turn it off, but they turn it back on Friday night because they want to see who all their friends are. This is a huge problem because if a predator or just a random person gets a naked picture of your son or daughter, all they got to do is add them to Snapchat. Now they know where they go to school. They know where they go home. They know what sports they play. They know where they work. They know what friends' houses they hang out at. They know what bedroom they sleep in. They know everything about them just by adding them on Snapchat. It's that easy. And I get parents that don't want to give out all this information because of their kids. Like, does your kid have Snapchat? I'm like, okay, then all that doesn't matter. You should just post it on your front door because that's how much information is getting shared. About a year ago, Snapchat adding AI to everybody's Snapchat. So you get an AI friend. Now you can dress them, name them, anything you want, but it's an AI buddy. So the kids are using this artificial intelligence friend for a homework helper, for a sex consultant, for a psychologist, for a counselor, for a best friend, for everything. Okay, we are experimenting on a whole generation of kids because AI has not been tested in any way, shape, or form. And some of the kids get really into their AI friends. This is not good. It's not good, it's not good. So this is a 24-hour timeline that I'm showing you. And it's basically different drug dealers offering different drugs on their 24-hour timeline. And the thing about the 24-hour timeline is when they put it on there, you know when they added that picture. Okay, they added this 3 hours ago, so they probably still have that drug available. If you add it from your photo library, it says it was added from the photo library. Now, we actually ordered a half a pound of heroin with our fake Snapchat and got it delivered to the park next to the school. We thought we were getting a kingpin, and that was actually a student from another school that brought it, a female student, actually. Off to jail she went. But this happens every day. Every day. And then some of these is where you would see underneath, hey, look, this is how much the price is. This is how much it is with nudes. This is how much it is with sexual favors. The vault. This is the My Eyes Only vault inside of Snapchat. So if you open Snapchat and you scroll on your pictures along the top, it says My Eyes Only. Now, if you click on it and this PIN code comes up, that means that your child has set up the PIN code. Now, your child is going to say, the standard answer is, I set that up a long time ago and I don't remember the PIN code. So a good mom or dad is going to yank that phone. It's like, well, you can have this phone back when you give me the PIN code. The kid is going to go into their room and they're going to log in on their school Chromebook or on their friend's phone or on anything. And they're going to go in and delete all the pictures they don't want you to see. Then about 2 hours later, they come out of their room. Hey, mom, I forgot that I wrote it down in my notebook. Here's the PIN code. And you're going to type in the PIN code and you're not going to see all the pictures they already deleted. All you're going to see is butterflies and horses. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't trust you. You're the best kid ever. And that's how it happens a lot. Now, you can't get Snapchat to reset that code. However, you can reset the code yourself. If you type it in wrong a couple times, it's going to reset and delete every picture in there. You're not going to get to see it. But all the pictures will be gone. So I get a lot of parents who will give their kids Snapchat and think they're smart because, oh, well, I reset the PIN code, so it's mine, so they can never put any pictures in there. Well, guess what? Your kid can reset it too. And they often do. Now, it used to be when I arrested kids, there's one more thing on here on Snapchat that I didn't talk about. When I arrested adults and older kids, the number one request on the way to jail is, can we stop and have a smoke? Because they know they're not going to get to smoke in jail. Now, the number one request from younger people is, will you give my friend my username and password for Snapchat? Because I don't want my streaks to disappear. Okay, and for those of you that don't know what a streak is, if I send a picture to a friend, that's one streak for the day, and they send it back. Then the next day, within 24 hours, you got to send them another picture, and they send it back. That's 2 streaks. So then there's some kids that have, a 640, a 2-year streak, and now they're going to jail. They don't want to lose that, so they want somebody to keep their streaks going. Right? Talk about addictive. That's how addictive it is, that on your way to jail, you don't care about jail, you care about your streaks on your Snapchat. I was telling them, of course, and then I never do. TikTok. It used to be called Musical.ly. And when it was called Musical.ly, even as TikTok, the premise was good. You have music, you have lip syncing, and you can do it with your friends. You make a video of lip syncing to a song, you send it to your friends, they lip sync, you can lip sync together. It wasn't the bad thing when it came out. So the first challenge that came out on TikTok was this plank challenge. So you start in push-up position, the music starts, and you go down to plank position, back up to push-up position. Again, nothing wrong with that. If you did that, you would get 10, 20, 30 likes from your friends. What young women, particularly young juvenile females, discovered very quickly, if they wanted more likes, they would do this challenge with a loose shirt. Now you're looking right down their shirt. And as soon as they wore a loose shirt and showed their boobs, they would get 50,000 likes just like that. Now, if they didn't wear a bra or had anything tattooed or pierced, now we're talking about 500,000. We're talking about getting paid already just for doing a silly 10-second video. That is worldwide grooming of your kids. Because I see some where it's obviously an 11, 12, 13-year-old girl who's doing this, and she has 1 million likes. It should be 1 million people telling her, hey, you should have some modesty. You should put on some clothing. But it's not. It's a whole bunch of adult men who are telling this girl what they'd like to do with her and how much more they would like to see, and ask if she has a Venmo or a PayPal set up so they can pay her to see more. And what's worse now is that I have parents who are doing this on the junior TikTok account for their daughters. They are setting them up to dance sexy dances, and they're getting 1 million, 2 million likes. And this is on a parent-run account. That is cray. Okay, so other challenges. Other than the plank challenge, the next challenge was the tattoo challenge. Show us your biggest tattoo, your smallest tattoo, your most expensive tattoo, your most meaningful tattoo. That's not created by women, that's created by men. One of the latest ones that was earlier this year was the behind closed door challenge, is what it was called. And on TikTok, you'd have adult women who would be in a room with the door open in the back, and they would walk past the door holding a laundry basket with their bare breasts. And you'd only catch an instantaneous glimpse of their bare breasts. Well, now everybody's trying to pause it on there, and they walk by, and then they walk by out into the room fully dressed so you see what they look like. Well, they were getting thousands and thousands and thousands and millions of views, and they were getting paid, and they were showing receipts for getting paid for these stupid challenges. Well, then what happens at the high school level is I have girls that come up to me and, Gomez, have you seen the latest TikTok challenge? I'm like, unfortunately, yes. They said, I wish these adult women would stop doing this because now the high school boys want us girls in high school to do the same thing. And they do, because they have completely normalized it. Right? That is a crazy thing. Okay, OnlyFans. OnlyFans is a pay-per-view Instagram channel, basically. And you can pay monthly or you can pay by the picture. And so this was started by celebrities. You wanted to see inside, Taylor Swift's closet or whatever. You would pay a monthly fee to be a member between $5 and $50. And that might not be exact, but it's pretty close. Well, for that fee, you get access to their OnlyFans account. Well, what started happening is women started selling their bodies. Well, men do this quite a bit too. And you pay $5 to $20 to $30 a month to be part of their OnlyFans account. Well, then they show up on TikTok and they're making $20,000, $30,000 in 1 month for just showing off their bodies. The latest thing, the Olympians, right? The Olympians that went to the Olympics in France are now showing their bodies and making millions on OnlyFans. What are we doing? We are showing a younger generation that they are worth their body parts more than what they were worth in the Olympics. So, can 13-year-olds have a OnlyFans account? Yes, they can. A lot of times they get a Venmo or PayPal account from their parents. Mom, I got to pay for something with soccer. Mom, I need this to pay for a book. I need it to go to the zoo. And parents will set up a PayPal or a Venmo for their kid. Well, the kid, all they have to do is go in and change all the usernames and passwords. And unless that kid goes into the zero, into the minus account, the parent will never know. Right? Because you have to set that up with your bank and it sends a penny and 3 pennies over so that you verify the bank is hooked up. Well, unless the kid goes under zero and it takes something out of your bank, you'll never know what's going on of it. So now I got girls that are on OnlyFans that are making thousands of dollars and they're 13 years old. In fact, I had 2 girls in a very remote school that the parents called and said, hey, we have a daughter who has $3,000 in her Venmo account and we have no idea how she got it. They thought she was drug dealing. I said, well, it's not drug dealing, but it's something. I also have digital pimps. When you turn 18, it used to be you started your own business of selling vapes out of the trunk of your car. Then they made that age 21 to buy vapes, which helped a lot. But now I have 18-year-olds that can get a bank account and they charge, the young girls, 10, 20%. I got a bank account. I'll set you up with OnlyFans. You put the content and I'll take a cut. Now, I'm not sure this video is going to play, so we're going to see if it'll play.
I have a full-time job as an accountant.
So this is what the sex workers are calling themselves now, accountants.
I'm an accountant. At a place where accountants work. I have a full-time job as an accountant. Nobody asks you questions when you say you're an accountant. What do you do? I'm an accountant. Where do you work? At a place where accountants work. You like your job?
There are some guys on there as well towards the end, but just so you see how popular it is, that's like 20 people that are singing the little song, I'm an accountant. They are just normalizing the sex trade worker. Those people all have OnlyFans accounts and are making lots of money by selling their naked bodies. And how cool does that look? And then a lot of them show their nice cars, their nice houses, their income statements. All right, Instagram. Most of you know Instagram or have seen it. Basically, picture and video sharing. Now, what you guys friend and see is completely different than what kids friend and see, right? Because it goes through algorithms. Whatever you like is what it's going to give you, right? So I get parents, well, I have Instagram and it's just, you know, dogs on quilted blankets or, you know, whatever it is. The thing about Instagram that most people don't know is that kids can have 5 accounts on one phone. And all they have to do is drop down. So when they walk in the door and when a parent snatches the phone to check their Instagram account, it's on their main account is what they call it. That's the grandma and grandpa account. It's got all horses and rainbows. But if you drop down, they have 4 other accounts, which they call their spam accounts. Now, some kids used to call them their Finsta, which was their friends and Instagram smashed together, or their Sinsta, which was their sins, drinking, drugs, sex, whatever, and Instagram put together. But when parent sees it, it's always going to be the main account. But you can drop down and go to their other accounts. You don't even have to relog in. Instagram lets you have 5 of them. Even the elementary school kids who have Instagram have 5 of them. Right, so understand that it's easy to have multiple accounts. Now, Instagram followed Snapchat in that it has disappearing chat messages now. If you have Instagram and want to see how this works, open a chat message with a friend. And in the middle of the chat window, put your finger in the middle and swipe up and it'll say entering vanish mode. Now all the messages that are sent are going to be deleted after they're read. And then you have to go backwards to exit vanish mode. But that's the Snapchat characteristic on Instagram. Now, the biggest damage that Instagram does at the schools, I call them the smash or pass list, and that's just my own terminology for it. Kids will go to the school and they will make a fake account. And they will take a picture of a female student and they'll say smash or pass on it. Now, smash means I would have sex with that person. Pass means no, thank you. I'm not going to have sex with that person. This is hugely degrading. Whether you get smashes or passes, it's still degrading, right? Because the girl whose picture's on there, now she can see, oh, well, everybody wants to have sex with me or doesn't want to have sex with me. Teachers are always included in the list. Now, I get parents who call me and say, Gomez, my daughter who's 12 is on this smash or pass list. People are saying they want to smash or pass her. She's 12. Make it stop. Okay, this is considered free speech. I cannot make it stop. Unless something is illegal on there, I can't do anything. All they've done is take a picture of a fully clothed elementary kid or middle school kid or high school kid. Now, if I can get it to stop, and the only way I can get it to stop is getting everybody I know to complain about the account. And then sooner or later, Instagram will review the account and see if it violates their standards, which sometimes it'll violate their harassment or bullying standards, and they get rid of the account. How long does it take another kid to put up another account like that? 32 seconds. Right? And so here's a couple of the other ones. And since they're kind of hard to see, I'll read them to you. So the first one is a smash or pass. The second one is a rate my rack. We're not talking about deer. Rate my shoes is probably the most innocent of all of them. And this is usually teacher shoes. They'll come, what are those? Right? And the kids will rate every teacher's shoes there is. School name confessions. This was probably one of the bigger ones in our area. So, you know, we're the Mountain View Mavericks. So it was Maverick Confessions. And what they did is they put deep, dark secrets from the school there. Now, the problem with this is that there's no checks and balances. And so half the stuff isn't true in any way, shape, or form. But the bigger problem is that half of it is true. So now somebody brings me anything from that page, I've got to investigate it, whether it's true or not. And half the time it is true. And I did arrest a teacher from this. But I've also seen kids lose scholarships because of this. School name dates, or the ship list is what this one is called. People will take pictures of a boy and a girl and say that they should date each other. And a lot of times they get pressured to date each other just because they showed up on this Instagram page. The ratchet list. Ratchet is another word for whore or slut. And they call it the ratchet list, and they start taking pictures of female students. Area code fights, this is a huge one for us. You know, we're area code 208. And so 208 fights list, kids will set up fights just to get onto this page. So this is usually an area wide. And every time we get rid of it, it pops up again. It pops up again and again and again. And lots of kids have the fight saved so they can populate it pretty quickly. Body count list. Body count has become mainstream terminology for how many people you've had sex with in your lifetime. Well, now the kids at school are concerned about their body count list, right? And boys want theirs to be high and girls want theirs to be low. The math doesn't work out there somewhere. Rape list. This is one of the most damaging one to boys. Somebody gets mad at them and puts them on a rape list. Well, now you get girls all over the place who are angry at boys, or they've had some kind of sexual encounter that wasn't consensual and they put them on the rape list. Again, there's no checks and balances. So you can go on the rape list whether you did anything or not. And I've investigated a couple of them. And I've had the victims say, Gomez, this did not happen in any way, shape, or form. There's no truth to it whatsoever. It's out there already, right? It's on the internet. It's hard to get rid of, right? And again, that can cost scholarships. It can last for your whole life. Roblox. Roblox is probably the biggest predator game there is. So for those of you that aren't familiar with Roblox, it's popular between like 6 and 12-year-olds. Even though I know some 15, 16-year-olds that still play it. It's very blocky. It has about 600 mini games. It might be thousands of mini games, but it has a lot of mini games inside of it. Now, on its own, if it were not hooked up to the internet, it has some very good educational value. They have lots of learning things. You learn how to budget, you learn how to build, you learn how to negotiate. There's lots of good that can be used in Roblox. Unfortunately, as soon as you add other people to it, it becomes garbage. Now, if any of you people go fishing, where do you go fishing? Where the fish are. Predators, they're going to go hunt kids. Where are they going to hunt kids? Where the kids are. And guess what? This game is labeled, 6 to 12. They know that all the kids on there are going to be elementary kids. They're super easy to talk into things. Their parents have probably not had real conversations with them. And so it makes easy prey. Now, I have twin grandkids, and we let them play Roblox while we're doing puzzles. So we'll do a puzzle on the table. I have one they're twins. I have one on my side. My wife has one on her side. Well, and they're Bobsy twins. So she had the male twin, and she's like, look, our grandson is talking to a deaf person. I'm like, what do you mean talking to a deaf person? Well, it says ASL ? American Sign Language. No. ASL ? Is age, sex, and location. They're asking an 8-year-old. This is not good. Now, the bigger problem with this is that parents use this as a babysitter. Now, when I was a parent of we people a long time ago, we used Barney. You would put the Barney VHS tape in and you would rewind that, 10 times a day so that you could get some chores done. These days, it's Roblox. You can put a 5, 6, 7-year-old on the couch with Roblox on a phone. You could go to the Bahamas and come back, and they're still going to be there. Right? The problem is when you go to take it away. I tried to take my kids' Roblox away. I'm missing a finger. But all that time, they are being groomed. Now, I get parents that make it a little safer by disabling the chat. Well, I've disabled the chat. No. You haven't. You may have disabled the chat, but inside the games, there's drawing walls where your kids are the drawing walls have like 90% penises drawn on them. And then swastikas and all kinds of things, but they can actually start putting words on there and talking to each other through the drawing walls. And there's other workarounds that can be used on Roblox for adults to contact kids. Now, probably the last 5 violent sex predators that I have personally arrested have all had multiple Roblox accounts. And I asked them, like, hey, why do you have a Roblox account? Well, my grandson likes it, so I play it with, no, they don't. Right, and I check. That's gotta be super scary, right? I'm arresting predators who have Roblox accounts for the purpose of hunting kids. And how many parents are checking that diligently? Not very many, right? The only safe way to do Roblox is watching over their shoulder. We don't let our grandkids play if we're out of sight. Because I know how many predators are on Roblox. The other problem with Roblox is you can spend money on there. And kids want Robux. And so you put your credit card in there and pretty soon you've got a $2,000 bill because your kid bought a bunch of Robux. But that's also how the predators get to them. Hey, look, if you'll go on your mom's iPad and send me a picture of you without a shirt or pants on, I'll give you 52 Robux. Right into a 5 and 6-year-old. Last night for bath time, they had to take their pants and underwear off for free and they didn't get nothing but a bath. Now they're going to get these cool things on social media or on their games. And how many parents have talked about the difference? I mean, their no spot, you think that's going to compete with some widget on Roblox? No. Same thing with Fortnite, right? It also offers Robux, which a lot of kids value very much. We also start desensitizing kids to drugs, right? So by the time they hit high school, 420 and marijuana is a popular in thing. Telegram is the latest and greatest drug trading anything. Now, if you want to see what kind of drugs are around here and offered, download Telegram. You have to give it access to your contacts, which doesn't matter. But if you find friends near me and open any group, you will see sex and drugs for sale within miles of you. And this is geo-based. So it'll say 3 miles from you, this group was started. Here's all the drugs and here's all the sex. And they will show straight up pornography. And all you have to do is download this Telegram application.
Apps like that, are a lot of those coming from foreign countries or no?
I do not
What about
have.
the TikTok controversy.
Yeah.
The rest of these, are they?
So the question is, are all these coming from foreign countries or most of them? I do not know the answer to where most of them, but I can tell you that there's plenty that are USA made as well. And every time if something like TikTok comes out, everybody tries to copy it. So there's thousands of programs that people use, use, as well as old school programs like Tango, like Kick, that people have forgotten about, but the predators still have them and they still work. And you can see they sell drugs, they sell sex, they sell credit card scams, they sell PayPal scams, they sell fentanyl, they sell all kinds of things on there. And it's, 2 minutes away from any kid's fingertips. All right, let's talk about some drugs. You guys were starting to depress me with all that social media talk. Okay, so popular with kids in high school is vapes, marijuana, prescription pills, alcohol. You have to understand there's 2 addictions with all of these. The first addiction is going to be the chemical addiction. Whether it's THC, whether it's alcohol, whether it's opiates, that's the chemical addiction. The second addiction, which is almost just as bad as the chemical addiction, is the friends and social addiction. Once you start doing any drugs, your whole friend group changes. You start hanging out with people that vape. You start hanging out with people that do alcohol. You start hanging out with people that take prescription pills. So now when I call a parent from the school and I say, hey, I caught your kid with a vape, most parents think their parental authority is going to conquer that. It's like, well, they're never going to do that again in my house. I'll bet. Right? Because not only are you asking your kid to quit vaping, which the nicotine is a giant addiction, now you're asking them to give up all their friends, because unless they give up all their friends and get new ones, they're not quitting. Right? The 2 addictions, especially with teenagers, it's super rough. And right now, vapes is the single biggest addiction that kids are going to have in school. They're super easy to get, they're small, they're easy to hide, they're odorless and smokeless. Now, hidden devices, they come in Sharpie markers. that hoodie is actually, they have a little jewel vape on the end that you can't tell what it is. The Soarin' drop down there, I haven't seen one of those in a while. But those, the girls love to cut holes in their bras and they could put that in and it fit perfectly inside their bra. So at the school, we're not gonna find that, nor are we gonna look. But these days, the small disposable ones are the easiest ones to get. People will buy them by the box load and they sell them for 2 or 3 times the price to the kids at the school. Most of them is 3 times price, right? So you have a $15 vape, it's gonna cost the kids, $45. Or a nude photo. Okay, so vapes at the school is becoming a bigger and bigger problem. I can tell you at my small school of 300 kids, so we have 150 high school kids, more than half of them, I have issued them a vape citation. Now in Idaho, the vape citation is $74, plus they get 3 days of in-school suspension. In the bigger schools, it's a 5-day in-school suspension because they have a special teacher for it, and they have some drug and alcohol counseling. In the small rural schools, that's not available. $74 doesn't do much for curbing vape citation or vaping. But what started happening first is the kids would go into the bathroom stalls 3 or 4 at a time. Well, whatever teacher checked the bathroom, now they've got to pick between 4 students that just came out of the stall who's got the vape. Right? And the kids know whoever's got the vape when the teacher comes in, it goes in their underwear or goes in their bra. And I teach every school, every counselor, every teacher, don't go after in bras and underwears unless there's a bomb and you should be running the other direction anyways. Do not go in bras and underwear, right? We let parents do that. Right? So if anybody's doing that, tell them, talk to Officer Gomez, because they should not be doing that. It's not worth that. So we made a policy at our school, only 1 person allowed in the stall at a time. If there was more than 1, you're getting in-school suspension like you're vaping. Of course, we had to fight back from parents. Oh, well, my kid had a really deep, dark secret or problem that, hey, we'll give them an office in the office. Come up here. There's no need for them to be in the same stall. Then we installed vape detectors. The kids figure out pretty quickly that we have vape detectors, but they try and beat it, right? They'll blow it into a flushing toilet. They'll blow it into their shirts. They'll exhale really slowly. Sometimes they beat it, but a lot of times we can see on the video who came out. So now we take them up to the office, and where are their vapes hidden? It's in their bra or their underwear. We have them empty their pockets. We have them take off their shoes. That's all we're going to do. However, we came up with a better thing. We got one of those wand metal detectors that they have at the airport. It cost us $150, and that thing is spot on catching vapes. So then the kids come up with their next thing, right? All of a sudden, every high school girl says they have an underwire bra. It's like, you don't even know what that is. Stop. Right? I mean, and you can beep it just perfectly, and it's funny how the underwire bras never had wire in the back anymore. So again, we call the parents and give them the opportunity. But a lot of parents are tired of the fight, or they're very complacent about it. Or they're letting the kid medicate themselves using vaping. Right? So that's a crazy battle. Now we have these little swab tech things that probation parole gets me. They're very inexpensive. They're super quick for testing if there's THC or nicotine in the vapes. And I'm probably getting about half and half right now. So half THC and half nicotine vapes. It's super important that schools make a very good policy on this. The other thing we're having a problem with is around the United States. In Idaho, our law covers it. But other states, the Zyn packs. Those the Zyn packs are the little tobacco pouches that are white. You put them in your lip and it gives you 50 milligrams of nicotine. A lot of states, their tobacco laws don't cover that, right? It says, hey, smoking device. Well, they're not smoking it, they're putting it in their lip. Or it'll say specifically tobacco. Well, those things say nicotine. They don't really call them tobaccos. So things have to be changed and modified, and we're always updating. But just check your local laws, and those things are becoming very popular. Also with the Zyn packs, we also have caffeine packs now. So you can go to the store and get a caffeine pack that looks like it comes in a tobacco pouch, and you put it in your lip and it gives you caffeine. Well, now the kids will take the caffeine pouches and put nicotine pouches in there. It's a crazy world.
So with those Zyn with nicotine, does it act like chew tobacco, or can you still swallow your spit with the Zyn?
Can you swallow your spit with the Zyn? I do not know the answer to that.
Cause if you're out spitting, it's easier to detect.
It is easier to detect if you're spitting, but the kids are going in classrooms and they are so addicted, and I'll tell you why they're so addicted, that they can't go a 90-minute class without taking a hit on their vape and getting their nicotine hit. So that's why they put the little pouches, but they're definitely not spitting in class that I've seen. But that's a great question. I'll have to find out. I got some,
So if you swallow your spit doing chew, you're gonna get real sick.
you're gonna get sick. You're gonna get sick.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, pretty much, yes, you can swallow it. That's one of the reasons why it's looked at as the alternative, the discreet way to be able to get around tobacco laws in places where, like, I mean, planes everywhere, like, that's part of the allure of it, that you don't have that. You don't need this spit with it.
And you don't have the smoke. So when I started confiscating vapes in 2013, they called them mods, and they were the big ones that you put 2 batteries or 4 batteries in the bottom. And they were mods because you could put new tops on them, new bottoms, you could put different face plates on them. And they were the giant ones that you would, a fistful. And when you exhaled the smoke, you could see a car up. It's like, man, is there a train at the front of this line? You could see smoke coming up for miles. The amount of nicotine in those was between 0 and 36 milligrams of nicotine. Now, I talked to lots of kids about this, and they said that most of them did not do 36 milligrams because it was so acidic, it would burn your throat. So if you did the 36 milligrams, because it gave you an extra hit, you would come to school hoarse, and it would burn your throat, literally burn your throat. So most of the kids I was getting were 25s, 24s, 26s on the vape level, on the nicotine level. Well, then in 2015-16, they added sodium or salt to the vape juice, which brought down the acid level. Well, as soon as they brought down the acid level, it no longer burned your throat. We immediately jumped up to 50 milligrams of nicotine in the vapes. So in 2015-16, I started seeing on Snapchat, people were selling 50 nic carts. They call them salt nicks or 50 nicks. And that's what every kid wanted to have, was the 50 milligrams of nicotine. Now, to compare that to a cigarette, depending on where the data, they have, between 8 and 12 milligrams of nicotine. And when you combust it by lighting it and it goes through the filter, you get 4 or 5 milligrams into your lungs compared to 50 from a vape. So it's like smoking a whole pack at once. Now, if you haven't eaten good or you haven't gotten a good night's sleep and you come in first thing in the morning at school and you take a hit off a 50 nic vape cartridge, it's causing kids to go into seizures. They fall on the ground, they flop around like a fish, and they profusely sweat. And it's a quick seizure. It's like 10 seconds. I tell all my teachers, when that happens, I need to know the next kid that runs out of the room because they're going to have the vape on them. And 100% of the time it's happened now. I haven't seen that happen from the marijuana cartridges, but there are some cartridges that have meth, that have fentanyl, that have all kinds of things. Now, marketing. Up there in the right-hand corner, you see a vape. And it's Rooty Tooty Fresh and Fruity, whatever it is. The federal government came out with a law against them marketing the fruity flavors for these cartridges. So how do we have these still available? The reason is, when they made the law, they said it was for refillable cartridges. So the vape industry quickly made disposable vapes that you can't refill, and now they could sell Rooty Tooty Fresh and Fruity again. So now, I'm getting Orange Dreamsicle, I'm getting Watermelon Crush, I'm getting, Orange Blast. All these things are coming into the schools by the boatloads because they're getting around the terminology in the laws. Now, the other thing that this vape has, you can't see it from there. It says 5% nicotine. To a kid, they see 5% nicotine and they're like, wow, that's 95% nicotine free. But a 5% nicotine vape is pretty much the biggest vape you can get as far as nicotine content. That is the 50 milligram nicotine content, is 5%. If it was a 1%, it would be the basically 0.10 instead of the 5% or the 50. It would be 10 milligrams of nicotine. So a cigarette, really, if you were going to put the same level on it, would be 0.05 versus a 5%. And almost all the vapes I get that are these kind are all going to be the 5%. So is that marketing trickery? Yes, it is. Now, if it said 7.5%, which they don't, the FDA, whatever initials they have, would consider that a lethal dose of nicotine. Nicotine used to be used as a natural pesticide for crops. So if you have up in the 7.5%, if you get 75 milligrams of nicotine, you start getting to where you can have deadly dose of nicotine. That's why we're stopping at 5. Marijuana. Is this a marijuana state? Do we allow marijuana here?
Yeah.
Idaho's the same. We're a holdout state. All the states around us allow marijuana, which makes it super easy for everybody to get and bring it to Idaho. But we're holding out. And the longer we hold, the better it gets, I think. Because they're starting to have some really bad things happening in the other states that have allowed the marijuana. Now, marijuana is super easy to get since all the other states have it. It's become very mainstream, which means the instant your kids get a cell phone, they are being indoctrinated into the marijuana world. The marijuana world also has a huge mob that comes after anybody that says anything negative about marijuana. Right? If I put on my Facebook page that has 270,000 followers, I say, hey, 4-year-olds should not drive after smoking a bowl of marijuana. Oh, the people come after me. You have no statistics on that. You're just talking. There's no way you could possibly know that. I mean, they come after me. Right? One of my partner, the tall cop, Jermaine Galloway, when he has stuff that's on marijuana, they send paid protesters to protest in the back for him. Right? If that's in Idaho, I got a taser in Idaho. Watch out. Come at me. But they have a mob that comes after you. And now this mob is protecting the vape industry and the marijuana industry. And people are afraid to talk against it because that mob comes after you so hard. They really come after you hard. Marketing. Let's see what marketing says. Okay, so up in the left-hand corner, I got the iPod mini marketing. Now you see how they're marketing the marijuana vapes. Is that for adults? No, that's for kids. They're marketing exactly to kids. Right? And they know this. Concentrates. So any kid can look on YouTube and see how to make marijuana stronger. So let's give you a little quick marijuana lesson. In the 50s and 60s, THC content in a joint of marijuana was about 3 to 6% THC. Now through, production and engineering in plants, they've gotten 18, 19% just in a natural marijuana plant. So it's a lot stronger than it used to be in the 50s and 60s. Now, the kids looking on YouTube know they can boil down marijuana and make concentrates. They call it shatter, they call it dabs, they call it all kinds of things. In the school, we get dabs the most. Dabs are 70, 80, 90% THC. Right, so kid, once they take a dab pen at school, they're a zombie. They're just like so high, they almost can't even function. The only thing that keeps people from going to dabs more than they do is that it's very expensive. You have to take a whole bunch of marijuana and boil it down into nothing. Right, and also what I'm getting reports from the kids, because I talk to the kids when they're in detention, it's like, hey, let's go have a talk. And they say that a lot of times after you do dabs, it's like weeks before you can do regular marijuana and get any high from it because you're used to this super high concentrate marijuana. So it's kind of, you get a hit and miss with the dabs. Prescription pills. There's a lot of prescription pills at the schools. Now, most of the kids, what they do is when they get prescription pills, especially like Norcos and those kind of things, is they crush it and put it in a Gatorade drink. That way they can sip it during class, they can pass it around. And they can get the whole hit at once. So they'll either snort it or they'll drink it up in a Gatorade bottle. The reason they crush them is because if you take a pill naturally, your body takes time to break it down. So you get an extended time when you're getting the opiate or whatever it is that's hitting your system. If you crush it and snort it, you get the whole thing at once, which gives you the high. You can do the same thing by crushing it and drinking it in a Gatorade, but you can also share with your friends. Now, a lot of kids know that they can take a sports injury for whatever sport they're playing, and they can get prescribed some opiates. Now, if they're careful about it and don't take all their opiates, they can sell the excess for $10 a pill. Of any pill. And I mean any pill. I had some middle schoolers, 9 of them, who stole a girl's penicillin pills and took them. Right? I called each of those kids in, it's like, hey, did you get high? Yeah. No, you didn't. You might not have got mono today, but they will take any pill. But if you can take a sports injury or two and you have 20 pills left over at $10 a pill, you're doing all right. If you can steal pills from somebody, you're doing all right. So one of the scams that we've seen is younger couples will go look at houses on real estate, and they'll pick houses that have occupants specifically, because while they're getting the tour of the house, one or the other will say, hey, can I go use the bathroom? And they're going to pilfer their pills. Right? Unless there's a camera in the bathroom, which most bathrooms don't have, they're not going to know. And there's all kinds of scams for doing that. Pills are easy to get. Unfortunately, now we're getting ones with fentanyl. Right? So people are dying. Now, I don't think I've had any die at the school. I have had some kids die from taking pills that they didn't know were fentanylized, but not at the schools yet. New Jersey was the last one I saw that had 2 middle school kids. One died and one almost died from taking a fentanyl-laced pill. Now, I will tell you, I got fentanyl last year at a campsite. We were arresting the occupants of a car, Honda Civic, had tinfoil up in the front dashboard. And to a cop, that's like Christmas present right there. It's like, oh, tinfoil. But as I get the tinfoil, the girl that was in handcuffs behind me says, hey, officer, please don't open that. I'm like, why not? She goes, it's a fentanyl pill in it. I'm like, okay, thanks for telling me. And I will not open it. But later on, when we opened it, it was just one pill. And they had been between 4 20-some-year-olds had been smoking that pill for about a week. So they just would open the tinfoil, they would heat it from underneath, and they would snort the smoke with a tubing. So they knew to respect the pill and what was in it very much so. A random kid who sees a pill and takes it, or a 3-year-old that eats it just because they eat everything, they're dead. Right? We've changed our policies. We don't even test pills or powders anymore on the street at all. We wrap them up and send them to be tested because there's too much dangerous stuff now. But fentanyl is really a big deal. School use, kids will take all the pills, right? Adderall. Adderall is one that's big in colleges. Kids will take Adderall to study for tests, and they swear by it. They say it helps them study and do better on tests. Well, in the high school level, when I catch a kid with Adderall that's not there, it's like, why are you taking Adderall? Well, it helps me focus. I'm like, you got straight F's. What are we focusing on? Pills is the one where you can have accidental addictions, right? So I had a girl very into sports. She got in a car crash, broke her shoulder. And so they had her get on gabapentin. Well, when it came time to start weaning her off, instead of just going off and weaning off, she started supplementing with other pills and other drugs because she was so hooked on the gabapentin. Right? So that's a problem. It's one we have to educate everybody. And I know the doctors do a pretty good job of educating, but we have to, as a society, we have to know, hey, any kind of opiate goes into your system has a chance of addiction. Okay, so these M30s, they no longer make them. So if you see an M30, it's either a really old prescription or somebody is just making them on their own. So you can buy a pill press from Amazon for $500. And the M30 dyes that you mark the pills with are very popular. But thank goodness the prescription industry is at least doing a little bit, and they've gotten rid of the M30 dye. So there's no actual M30s anymore. So anything that's marked M30 is fake or really, really old. Either way, it shouldn't be taken. Alcohol. Alcohol is same as it's always been. It's easy to get. Kids still take their parents' alcohol. They'll mark a line. They'll pour it out and fill it back up with water to that line to know exactly where it was. Same as it's always been. What's new about this is it's easier to get because of social media. What's also new about this is that they're mixing it with a lot of pills. So they have what we call farm parties. They'll go and everybody will bring in, dump whatever pills they have into a bowl, and everybody coming in the party takes 3 pills and chases it with a beer. Let's see what happens, right? I always tell them it's Viagra or some, make your hair fall out pill. The kids don't care. They still do it. Now, those aren't as popular as they could be, thank goodness. But the bigger problem I have is with GHB pills and the roofie pills, right? Rufinol and gabapentin, something supercalifragilistic. It's a big long name. I don't know why they needed to name it so long. But kids have college parties and invite my high school girls. With one of their beers or one of their shots, they give them some roofies or some GHB pills. And what happens next is they end up having sex with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different men that night. I know this because on Monday morning, I'll get a girl that comes in my office in Gomez. I think this girl got raped at a party. Like, well, why? Well, she was a virgin when we went and she had sex with 6 guys in one night. That's not normal. And I called a girl and her family into my office like, hey, did you go to a party? Yeah. Did you get drunk? Yeah. Did you have sex with anybody? I don't think so. Are you sore? Yeah. I have the names of the boys. But what happens is I cannot get kids to press charges. Number one, their parents are embarrassed. Number two, the kids are embarrassed because they went to an alcohol party when they were told not to. Number three, if they press charges against the boys, who I have the boys' names, they know from seeing it over and over and over again that the other girls at that party are going to murder them on social media. Right? The other girls at that party are going to say, she is such a whore. She couldn't wait to get more D. She was spreading it for anybody that asked. I saw her have sex with 3 guys myself at once and she was begging for more. Every girl has seen this happen to other girls. The other thing I get is, hey, Officer Gomez, those are my friends. I don't want them to get in trouble. Like, hey, friends don't rape friends. Now, I probably had that report 20 times. Only one parent let me press charges. And it wasn't the successful, like we were never able to get it pinned on the guys. But when I did that, it sent the message that we're serious. Right? So I told her, hey, let me try at least, right? Let's send the message. And that girl, I told them, hey, look, this is what's going to happen on social media. So they just took her phone, got rid of everything for a while, and we went through with it. And it helped other girls not be involved in that. But you have to do that a couple times. Okay, other drugs. Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 10s are basically just chemical modifications of marijuana to get around the marijuana laws. They sell them at gas stations. Kratom also sell at gas stations. That's like taking 15 shots of cappuccino at once and then Kratom. CBD, no regulations on CBD. So some, CBD shops will promise that it doesn't have THC, but yet when we test as a police, we test CBD, almost always it comes back with THC, right? It wouldn't be popular if it didn't have some kind of THC in there. Huffing, the guy up in the left corner has a big silver ring on his face. That's from huffing. They take silver or gold paint, they put it in a paper bag, and they huff it. Now, when I've gotten called on patrol, it's like, hey, we have a crazy drunk driver driving down the road, driving down the sidewalk, and I pull these huffing guys over. I don't even have time to get a backup there before it's going to clear. Right? So by the time my backup arrives, the high is gone, and now they're normalized out. So I can't give them, all I can do is give them reckless driving because it just passes too quickly. And a lot of times those guys, when you contact them in the Walmart parking lot, they're talking to the can of paint or what? I haven't been huffing. And they got the big gold ring. It's like, that's awesome. Your face looks like my rims on my car. Meth is still huge and always will be. Trank is one of the new ones. Trank is, the official name is xylazine. And it's a tranquilizer you can buy at the farm store for your horses. You can look it up on YouTube. And when people are taking Trank, number one, it eats all the skin around where it's injected. Number two, people are just standing around all day like this, like a zombie. And you can look in Baltimore, you can look in Los Angeles, and there's streets of people just zombied out. And they're just like hooked on Trank, even if it's eating their arms and legs. It's like the crocodile disease from a couple of years ago, the crocodile drug. Ashwagandha. This one hit TikTok earlier this year. I haven't seen it on TikTok for a couple months now. Ashwagandha is something you just go buy at Rite Aid. And it's like a health pill for older men, 30 or 40. Since I'm older than that, I can say that. But I was seeing on TikTok, hey, this is the first day of ashwagandha and nothing. I'm like, this is 7th day of ashwagandha, and you start seeing them droopy. By 14 days, they're just like, basically it numbed all their senses and all their feelings, and that's what they wanted to do because they were such a miserable life or whatever. But I was seeing that happen. Now, I don't know how much of that is true or not, but I did see it hit the TikTok circuit for a bit. LSD, pretty much the same thing it was in the 60s. You buy it in a stamp. That quarter has 4 stamps on there, 4 LSD tabs. They're $10 a piece, plus or minus a couple dollars. Super easy to hide. A lot of kids hide them in their phone case. The problem with LSD is the hit is slow. So kids in class will put it under their tongue. It'll dissolve. It's on blotter paper. It'll dissolve and nothing happens. So they put another one. It'll dissolve and nothing happens. Well, by the time they're on their 4th one, the first one starts hitting, and now they've gotten too much. I don't know that I've seen anybody overdose on LSD, but at the school, it looks like somebody naked running down the hallways. On the street, it looks the same. Somebody naked running down the street, that's usually going to be LSD. Not always, it could be PCP or something like that, but all the ones I've seen have been these LSD tabs because they're slow to hit, so kids will take too many of them. It's like, hey, nothing's happening, nothing's happening. And you buy them, that sheet there has like 150 of LSD tab hits. LSD is one that can last your whole life. So you can take it, you start hallucinating and everything starts going, well, you can have flashbacks to that for your whole life. And I know in my town of Idaho City, there's some people that are walking people of that. It's like, hey, he hasn't taken LSD in years, but he's still using his bike to prop them up. Scams. We talked about the naked picture scam. The Lululemon scam. This one hits girls, and even though I call it Lululemon, it could be Abercrombie, it could be American Eagle, it could be anything. And what somebody does is they make a fake profile of somebody at the company at Lululemon, and they contact girls who have a lot of Instagram followers. And they say, hey, you have a lot of Instagram followers, you're a really pretty girl, we're looking for more ambassadors to get our free clothing and model it, plus we'll pay you to do so. And they actually send them a contract. How hard is it to fake a contract? It's super easy. So they send them a contract, they say, hey, on Saturday, we have a board of directors or whatever is going to interview you. You have to bring a bikini along because we're going to send you exact fitting clothing so it looks good. We need to see your measurements. And during that interview, at some point, they're going to ask them to take their top off. Hey, we can see better if you take your top off. You don't have to, but these girls are seeing stars in their eyes. They tell them about how much money they're going to make. And then they tell them how much better it'll be if they can see their bare breasts. And most girls will fall to it. By the time they've gotten to that point, I've even had moms be in the interview with the girls and tell them it's okay to take off their tops. Chuck. Oh. 2 weeks later, when they're expecting their box of free Lululemon stuff or at American Eagle or whatever, instead they get a sextortion demand letter. Hey, we got your naked picture. We're going to send it all over the place. We're going to put it, publish it to the dark web unless you send us $500 in iTunes cards. And there's no amount of money you can make that stop with. The code scam, the code generator scam. This one's hitting a lot of adults on Marketplace. So you go to sell something on Marketplace. Somebody contacts you and says, I want to buy your whatever, but I've been burned by this before. So I'm going to send you a code. You tell me what that code is, and then I can talk to you because I'll know you're a real person. Well, you can't see it up there in the left, so I'll tell you what it says. It's 609173 is your Google Voice verification code. Don't share it with anyone. But because the victim is expecting it, they share it with somebody. As soon as you do this, the bad guys have set up your text on your phones to forward to them. So now they go into your social media and they reset your password, and the password goes to them because now they're getting all your text messages. So when Instagram, Facebook, anybody sends you a verification text, they get it too. And they're quicker on the draw. They've now taken over all your social media. This is happening to a lot of girls on Snapchat as well. So what they'll do is if these scammers get into one kid's phone, now they'll send messages to their friends' phones and say, hey, I got locked out of my Snapchat. They need to verify who I am. Is it okay if I send you a code? And because the kids are expecting it, they give the code. Now their Snapchat has been hacked. Now, the problem with this is, number one, like if you're a business and your Instagram just got taken over, they're going to ask you for 500, for 5,000, for 50,000 to get your Instagram back. That's taken you 10 years to build. Number two, if you're a kid, they're gonna look for nude photos in your own Instagram because they have your Instagram and now they're gonna sextort you. Plus, they're also going to set up a GoFundMe and put out on your social media that you've got a flat tire and you need $5 from everybody. Now, the problem with this scam is that a lot of people will go through fixing their social media, but they've never fixed the scam part. So you go through, it takes you 3 weeks to get your social media back through Instagram, through Facebook, through Snapchat. Well, now you get it back. Guess what? These guys are still getting your text messages. So all they got to do is resend the code again. So in order to make this stop, you have to run the scam on yourself. So if you go to googlevoice.com and you run the scam on yourself, basically set up a known phone as the secondary, then it takes their phone away. But I've talked to so many people who go through all the work to get it fixed. And then 3 months later, they get hacked again because the bad guy had their text messages the whole time. Crazy. All right. Some of these other ones we're going to bypass because I want to leave some time for questions and we can come back to those if we need. So what's the fix? One of the biggest things you can do is no Wi-Fi devices in bedrooms. Now, the biggest thing you're going to hear from kids on this is I can only wake up to my iPhone alarm. That's the only alarm in the whole world that I can wake up to. It's like, hey, I got a bucket of cold water. It says different. Right? Do cell phone checks with parents. Even if you don't know what to check for, check it. Have discussions, see what you see, and let your kids know that it's important that they mind themselves well on social media. Right? I always ask parents, how many private adults are you going to let your kids talk to? And people always say none, but that's not true. They talk to all kinds of adults. Parents know this and just, okay, my kid's going to not be dumb. No, they're kids. That's like their alternate name is dumb. Set a screen time and stick to it. I've got kids who are spending 15 hours a day on screen time. 15 hours, that means all day at school, all day at home, they're on screen time. Set a screen time and stick to it. If you need somewhere to start, pick 2 hours a day. And it's good for adults too. My wife and I, whenever we have kids in our house, if we set them on screen times, we do the same thing. Right? And I can't tell you how many times at the end of the week I get the iPhone report that, hey, you spent 3 hours a day every day this week on Facebook. Like, oh, time I'm not getting back. Less than 200 friends on any given application. Right? Does your kid need 50,000 friends on Instagram? Really? No, they don't. The problem is once you go past 200, people become anonymous and the bullying starts getting more. People become anonymous. They say things they wouldn't say in real life and things become unreal. So start getting rid of stuff. Cell phones at school. A lot of schools now are going with no cell phone bans. How they enforce that is going to be the biggest challenge. My school went with no cell phones. We have 2 teachers that just cannot enforce it, and it is a cancer to our school. Those 2 teachers are. Right? If you can't get the enforcement all the way around, it's hard to do. It has to be everybody. And I have on my Facebook page, I have some sample cell phone policies. If you need to, give it to your school. Here's my contact info. We got about 10 minutes left. I am going to open this up for questions. Or you can come up afterwards too and talk to me. Is there any online questions? Come on, online people, you gotta have something.
There was questions about getting copies of your presentation, and I know if it's in this format, it's probably not going to be very easy.
No, if you have their emails, I can send it to you in this format and it comes really easy. So if you send me an email and just tell me, hey, can I have the presentation? Then I don't know if you can email all of them. It's actually, I have a version of it on my YouTube. It's even easier. You go on my YouTube channel and it's easy. Just type in Officer Gomez. It's like Trump, Obama, Gomez. Yes, ma'am.
What do you see in kids that don't buy into this?
Okay, what do I see in kids that don't do the social media?
Well, I mean, they can, but that don't buy into it or don't engage in some of this stuff.
So, are there kids that have social media and don't engage in it? I haven't seen very many. And the problem I see is it's an addiction. So my easy terminology for addiction is giving up everything for one thing. And I see it in cell phones just as much as everything else. And I see 6th graders who come to the school with their guitar, with their drawing tablet, with their books, with their whatever that they're into. In 7th or 8th grade, they get a phone, all that other stuff disappears. I see kids who give up sports for their cell phones. I see kids who give up families for their cell phones. It's an absolute drug-like addiction. They start isolating, they start being reclusive in their rooms, all for social media. And I live up in the mountains. I do have some kids who don't have social media, and they have scrapes and bruises and dirt under their fingernails. I ask all kinds of parents, when's the last time your kid had dirt under their fingernails? Oh, we don't allow that. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just wondering, do you do education on parents? Because, I mean, really, you're fighting a losing battle if parents are not on board and engaged, because that's really where it starts.
Yes, do I educate parents? I do lots of education for parents. Most of the people on my 270,000 Facebook page are parents. I do lots of parents. Parents were invited to this, I think.
Yeah, but right, and you're just one small area, right? There's a whole.
Yep, and so school resource officers, if any school resource officer reaches out to me, I give them any of my information for free. In fact, pretty much anybody who does any kind of education, you want my presentation? Here you go. I put it on YouTube for free. There's no way I'm ever going to run out of people to educate. So I try and help, SROs be better people. I try and help parents be better people, but parents have a lot of peer pressure too, even though they don't want to admit it. It is a lot of peer pressure to have your 5th grader be the only one without a cell phone.
So
And
they're free to share your presentation.
You are free to share my presentation, my YouTube channel, my Facebook page, anything you like, you are free to share. Yes, ma'am.
So with your session this evening, would it be something that would be a family event as well, that you would consider having a family with their children, parents with their children, or do you prefer just the parents?
So that's a good question. Do I allow kids to come to this presentation? I do allow kids to come to the presentation, but there's a big problem. When I give this class, people are like, do you do this for kids? Yes, but I can go twice as fast because they know what I'm talking about. Right? This is too elementary for the kids.
So if it was a family that had someone that was like a 7-year-old, would that be?
A 7-year-old is a bit young for this information.
Mhm.
I usually tell them 10 years old and up. And I do have family presentations. They're very similar. I probably don't go into some of the stuff as much, right? Like some of the sextortion or some of the stories are a little filtered for that, but it's super similar. And when I go do just a high school presentation, it's much quicker and much more in-depth because they have a head start. And I have cooler, I talk about cray cray and, skibbity doo toilets. And, yeah, I get like extra if I put all those words in there.
So that new drug that you're talking about, is there a way to test for it, Trank?
Trank. Is there a way to test for trank? I do not know the answer for that, other than you'll see it eating the skin. And you can look on YouTube and you'll see how ugly it gets. It's like, hey,
There's strips just like fentanyl test strips, because I always email.
Okay.
yeah, I haven't had any kids do it yet, but
I'm assuming you see that it's real, that there's a real correlation too between the usage of these drugs and adolescent mental health. That they kind of go together, that they eventually become more paranoid, more suicidal, self-harming behaviors, those types of things.
do I see mental health issues with kids that are addicted to anything? Yes. Even on cell phones, if they're not addicted to anything but cell phones, they are more depressed, they're more suicidal, they're more dependent on everything. Right? Like I said, Snapchat, I see the same thing with Snapchat that I see kids that are addicted to marijuana, that I see parents that are addicted to meth. I see the exact same thing with kids that are too much on Snapchat or on Instagram. I see kids at the school that will melt down if they don't have their phone with them. Right? I have parents that have called dispatch, 911 call. I stopped my kid's Fortnite game and now they're tearing apart my house. Get here quick. Right? Fortnite and Roblox are the two that we get 911 calls on. And I was like, why are you calling witnesses? Just take care of this. But it's a problem, and it's a big problem. Right? And so parenting is going to be the biggest thing, right? You said parenting is going to be the biggest fix. But we're so politically correct that it's hard to even parent anybody anymore. Right? I carry a taser, so I don't have to be politically correct. But most people do. Now, We've started a program now where any adult that goes to jail in our county, and we have a small county, any adult that goes to jail, they have to take the love and logic class as part of their probation. We don't want just criminals to be awesome parents. So like in the summertime, we offer vouchers for childcare. If somebody will take the love and logic, we make it very worth their while to take the love and logic or whatever other parenting class there is. We give them vouchers for childcare. That way you get the exact people that you need at the classes. Because when we have them for free at the school, you get the awesome parents there anyways, right? It's like, okay, you guys are the 5 best parents we have. It's not who we need. We need the mandatories, right? You get a DUI, you're taking a parenting class. You get, right, whatever drug charge, you're taking a parenting class. How do you like me now?
There's 2 questions that came in online. The first is, what are your thoughts on non-punitive measures for students who get caught vaping? And Mo, if you're able, if you can unmute and maybe add to that.
Yeah, I'm just curious, just because with our schools, it kind of varies where it's like there's like the punishments with vaping, where it's kind of like what you talked about. They get fines, they get suspended, things like that. So like, just curious on what your thoughts are on like, because there's been talk about like moving away from that and more towards like the like solely like the education and like the like other interventions like vaping support, things like that. So just curious on what your thoughts are there.
I absolutely agree with non-punitive. The punitive $74 doesn't do anything. It doesn't help anything. It's not stopped anybody from vaping ever. So non-punitive is going to be where it's at. And that's, hey, my coaches at my schools always know when a kid gets in trouble, don't give them less sports, give them more sports. Give them more activities, give them more time with families and friends. When a family calls me and says, hey, I don't know who my teenager is, it's like, well, get to know them. Take them out on a boat, take them on a hike, come up with lists of free activities. I want teen centers everywhere for teens to be able to go to. The YMCA should be free to a lot of kids, and it's not. But that's where you have good programs that will get kids in other activities other than vaping and other than the destructive friends that they have. So I absolutely 100% non-punitive, get them into activities. I give everybody ukuleles at my school. It's like, hey, you get in trouble, here's a ukulele. They're like genius instruments, but it can be anything, right? If you have a good drama teacher, if you have a good, whatever it is that can share their interest with the kid and get them hooked on it, that is way better than any punitive, because I have not seen punitive work at all.
And the other question online was, have you had any experience with monitoring apps like BART, and if they are helpful with solicitation and trafficking issues?
Okay, so Bark is awesome, and most of their awesomeness is that they do a lot of education. The problem is that their software, there's no way for them to interweave it into iPhone and Android every time that Android and iPhone upgrade their software. So every time they upgrade their software, Bark has to interweave their software in between there. And iPhone, with its privacy settings especially, does not let Bark monitor appropriately. So there's always holes in it. Now, what's nice is Bark offers their own phone, which is awesome. Gab Wireless has their own phone. Pinwheel has their own phone. Troomy has their own phone. The specialty phones are way better than a Bark application. Now, if you don't want to do the specialty phones, Bark is better than nothing. iPhone has a free monitoring software that comes with it. It's better than nothing. But kids will find ways around all of those. So I highly suggest for younger kids, the little Gizmo watches or T-Mobile watches, whatever the little watches are awesome. My grandkids have all had them. We've never had a problem with them. The specialty phones are next best option. A real phone that's locked down in some way is the last resort, but they can get around it so easy. The first thing they're going to do is at night, when you say at 9 o'clock it goes off, they're going to change the time zone. Right. The second thing they're going to do is they're going to modify the GPS so they can put on their GPS wherever they think you think they are. Hey, I'm still at school, when they're really at their friend's house, but the GPS is showing you at school. They have so many ways around everything that I do recommend it because it shows your kid that it's important to you, but there's a lot of holes in the software. The mirroring, there's
your phone's downstairs. Oh, now I'm on my Chromebook for school because I did the mirroring.
Yep, there's mirroring on phones. They'll ask you to put in a password for their math application. and they're doing a screen record, so now they've recorded the password so they know it. Or they've set up a camera in the kitchen, so when they ask you, they can see what password you put in. There's so many ways for kids to get around everything. The specialty phones are way better. The watch is even better. Outside is the best.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. I just want to say thank you, first of all. I live in Medford. I work from home. My kids are grown. This was like way over the top for me. When I go walk 10 miles. But I want to say, at what age do you think we need to start teaching these little ones and their parents? Like my grandkids are 3 and 4 years old and they're on the tablets all the time. Are these things happening already?
Yes. Yes, they are. Yeah, so at 3 and 4, as soon as you give them a tablet. And so when people ask me, hey, Gomez, when should I give my kid their own smartphone? The best answer I give them is when you're ready for them to see pornography. Because there will be pornography as soon as they have their own smartphone. And then I'll get a parent who will call me and say, Gomez, I think we have a sexual deviant in my house. What do you mean? Well, we checked our 13-year-old boy's search history and he's been looking at porn all night. Really? So a boy is being a boy. You're not going to stop that, right? That's why I highly recommend no Wi-Fi devices in bedrooms. Now, you can download a Wi-Fi finder, you can download a Bluetooth finder, and check your own house for extra devices every night. Super easy. They're free, you can do that, but kids are going to be sneaky. This is the new age, you do what you can. Right? Moms and dads have been pretty good at being detectives forever, and it's just a battle back and forth. Well, I'm going to stick around so you can come up and say hi, and then there's a later session. I know most of you is like, man, everybody should have been here. There's a later session today, so you still have 2 hours to get those people here. And we would love to have them.
Take some snacks on